Greetings. Welcome back. Ready for more creepy stories? Yeah, Halloween's coming. Here's a story about everybody's favorite creepy crawler, the spider. I call it spiders. Are some people born hating spiders, or do they learn it as they grow up? In my case, I was born with a fascination for them. I believe it was later in life that I bent to pressure from others and began mistreating the creatures. I don't quite remember when this happened, but I do remember when it ended. My first memory of a spider was in Tennessee when I was 3. I found a rusty tin can that had a female black widow inside guarding her egg case. I thought the glossy jet black creature with the red hourglass was as beautiful as a jewel. I was so taken with my treasure that I carried it back to the house to show my mother. Now, I've heard that female black widow are the most venomous when they're protecting their eggs. My mother must have heard the same thing, because her reaction to my prize was not what I had expected. She screamed, grabbed the can from my hand, ran outside, and set it on fire with gas and a match. She burned my spider right up. I never really understood my mother's panic, because I thought the creature was beautiful. Years later, my mother complicated the spider issue by instructing us to protect the large golden garden spiders that hung in our vegetable garden. She taught me that they ate insects and that they were beneficial. Years later, I decided to grow my own garden plants. This was actually my first attempt at growing transplants. I set some pots on a picnic table in the backyard and filled them with soil. I then selected some nice, healthy-looking seeds and planted one in each pot. Within a week, I had a fine stand of plants growing. I checked and watered them daily. Things went well until the 3rd week. One morning, I went to check my plants, and I found they'd been completely wrapped in a blanket of spider silk. I had watched spiders as a boy. I've never seen behavior like this. The plants were bundled up like Christmas trees for shipping. The leaves folded flat on the sides and spun all around the with web. I was pretty pissed. What the heck did that spider think he was doing anyway? So I went down the line of plants. I found one that wasn't completely webbed yet, and there was the culprit. The spider had been wrapping the plant, but when I saw it, it stopped and looked at me as if to get approval for all of its hard work. Well, I wasn't pleased one bit, but even in my aggravation, I had to stop and have a look at this strange arachnid. Not only was its web-weaving behavior strange, but its body marks were like no other spider I have ever seen before or since. The thing was distinct. I have a lot of experience observing spiders by this time. The best I can describe is that the creature was larger than average, generally dark in color, but it had the most unusual emerald green markings on its abdomen. They were intricate. They looked like some sort of a hieroglyphic. The only thing about it was the way it stared at me. It was almost as if it was daring me to offer my approval for its hard work. I wasn't in the mood for this strange creature. I took my thumb and my second finger, and with a flick, I knocked it from the plant right down into the grass. In retrospect, this will eventually show itself to have been a stupid act on my behalf. To be sure, later, after I transplanted my crop, it was completely consumed by insects. The spider had been there to help me, it appears. The loss of my crop will turn out to be the least of my worries, though. It came to me as a dream in the night. I was again walking past the table in my yard when suddenly, from the tall grass, sprung that strange spider, and it had attached itself to the inside of my left leg. The creature began to rip at the flesh of my leg and draw blood. It hurt like hell, and I struggled to pull it from my leg and throw it back into the grass again. The spider no more than hit the ground when it rebounded like a rubber ball and was back tearing at my leg again. This went on and on as I removed the spider, threw it, and had it hit my leg again. Suddenly, I was struck with terror as I imagined that there might be more than one of these creatures in the grass. I saw myself covered in them, ripping at my flesh and unable to get them all off of me. I've heard you can't die in a dream, and I can tell you that's bullshit because I've done it, but no one ever talks about fainting in dreams. Faint is just what happened to me. I was so terrified by the idea that multiple spiders might jump on me, I passed out cold in the dream. The next morning, I woke with the vision of this dream still in my mind. I sat on the bed and began to scratch my body. As I touched my left leg, I realized it was in pain. I pulled the sheet aside and looked at a large red wound on the inside of my leg with a big white head in the middle. This was exactly the spot that the dream spider had bitten me. Was I dumb? How could this be? The spider was in a dream, but the wound was here in the waking state? I was living in a house with ghosts that walks around in the night, so what's so special about dream spiders that leave bite marks? I got dressed and went to work. The next day, a whole bunch of us piled into my truck and we took off for the Rocky Mountain National Park to do a few days of backpacking over the 4th of July holiday. I put on a good 20 miles walking during that trip with the top of my boot rubbing against the bite on my leg. I also didn't have a shower till I got back to Illinois. By then, the wound had spread up and down my leg. I had red bumps with white heads up and down, and in some spots the skin was turning black and was beginning to peel off. My employer hadn't provided me with health care, so I decided to make a claim that the spider had bitten me under the desk so I could get workman's compensation. The doctor confirmed the fact that this was secondary infection on a spider bite. He dressed the wound, gave me some pills, told me to keep it dressed and that I should recover. I followed his instructions, and eventually the wound did heal. Soon after, I left my employer and began preparing for a bicycle trip to Arizona. In the meantime, I started getting threatening calls and a letter from the insurance company claiming that I'd lied about the location that the injury had taken place. They didn't want to believe the spider had bitten me while I was at work. The whole thing just became a complete disaster. The bugs ate my crops, my leg almost rotted away on me, and now the insurance company was chasing me, all because of one strange spider. I left the state, and the collectors lost track of me, but my lesson with spiders was yet to be over. Months later, I had decided to stay in Arizona after a bike trip with my friend Alex. I rented a house and was subletting rooms in order to make the rent. One of the guys that stayed with me was Alex's older brother, Val Maklisoff. Val's mother had been an old Ukrainian lady that used magic spells to cure illness. She would tie a string around a wart, say some ancient magic spell, and the wart would vanish. You could say she was a witch. Val was an extraordinary fellow, but he seemed pretty normal in the social sort of way. It belied the fact that he held most of his mother's superstitions and beliefs beneath the surface of his consciousness. One day I was sitting at the dinner table, just shooting the breeze with Val, when a spider began to cross the table in front of me. Somehow I'd forgotten my lesson with the emerald hieroglyphic spider. I reached out with a fist, and I smashed the creature on the table for no good reason. So quick that I had no real idea what was happening when Val grabbed me by my shirt, threw me up against a wall, and was pinning me there with his nose almost touching mine. Right in my face he said, "No one kills spiders in my house. Do you understand?" His reaction had been so violent and swift that my mind was blown, but I weakly assured him I would never do that again, and he let me go. In his mother's magical tradition, the harming of spiders had been one of the most dangerous things a person can do. This was completely backwards to what most people in the USA think. Our general social belief is that spiders are third from the bottom of the list, just above serpents and the devil. My life with spiders flashed before my eyes, and I saw that I had carried poisonous spiders around with delight as a child. My attitude towards spiders had changed as I'd gotten older, and the universe seemed to be trying to tell me something. I made a pact with all spiders that day, and they have been under my protection ever since. I have never been bitten by one since that time, and I'm always called on by my partner to remove what she calls my spider buddies from the house. I have found that they will usually oblige my request by walking into my outstretched hat or hand and allowing me to relocate them to a plant by the front porch. Over time, most of them have stopped running away from me and will just hang out watching. I have decided that they are not only valuable creatures from their diet of insects, but they exist both in some magical spider realm that gives them the power to enter dreams. Never go back on your word with spiders. If you claim to be their friend, stick to it. They really don't like liars. That's the impression I get from them anyway. In return, they'll keep the bugs from eating my plants. I don't know how often I've seen people see a spider and go, "Ah, ah, ah, spider, spider." Did you ever stop to think that the spider, well, it's sitting there looking at you going, "Ah, ah, person, big, hairy, ugly person, they're dangerous, oh!" And they run. Yeah, you ever thought about that? You're scarier to that spider than that spider is to you. We frighten the heck out of the poor things. They mean us no harm. There is no spider out there that comes up against a person and goes, "Oh, look, a nice soft butt to bite. I think I'm going to take a piece out of it." No, we don't smell right. We mess their webs up. It's all wrong. Honest. The spiders don't want anything to do with us, which can be their friend. They just don't like people to go back on their word. Aloha. Happy gardening. Take care of your spiders.